So I sat down to film this. It's like 4 a.m. and was thinking like, oh, of course I'm not going to be disturbed at this hour. And then someone gets up, the dog goes off, the cards fall off the table. It's like, no problem. Like after the first interruption, I'll just, splice the videos together. And after like the third interruption, I was like, you know what, like, fuck this, fuck this. But it was kind of interesting because as I was kind of channeling this energy, like in my head, I kept hearing, I can't do this, I can't do this, and I thought that was odd because it didn't seem like me. Because like if you know me, half the videos on my channel were filmed while I was living in a motel room with two people and six animals, 24/7. Um, so like getting disturbed a couple times should not be enough to send me into that mode, but I think that there's like something that someone is very nervous about. It's funny because like all of that kind of exploded right as soon as I was, describing this love that someone feels. And we still have the original cards out on the table. Um, so I'm going to read these. Maybe pull a couple oracle cards here. Some more of these if we need, but kind of get into it. Kind of an interesting aside or confirmation that someone may be feeling a little bit scared or a little bit overwhelmed by the intensity of this. And kind of what I was saying in the initial video was that like this feels like very warm, um, like something that is generated from a surprisingly small source, um, but has like a very radiant sense of warmth, and it very much feels like love of some kind. The analogy that I was using was like a wood stove, how you can have just like one small wood stove that can heat like a whole house, just from the warmth that it does generate. And then the first card out, we have the sun, and then strength, the high priestess, 5 of cups, justice, and the 2 of wands. And with the sun over the 5 of cups, like this is like a very radiant warmth, but I think it's something that feels even warmer by contrast when you look at like, what came before, and like the grief there. And I think that this is like someone who has learned to like find a lot of joy in their pain, to the point that I think sometimes they forget that it was as painful as it was, and then they get the chance to experience something that's like less painful, and it's overwhelming. It's like that feeling of I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. Call off the reading. Um, but I think what comes after that, that's like strength and justice, where it's like this almost like realizing that not only can they do it, but they also need to. There's also like this sense of, like fairness. Like I'm hearing moral imperative to tell the truth. It's kind of funny. I think someone's energy is like taking this very seriously. I guess if this resonates with you, it may be you, but I feel like for a lot of the collective, it may be someone who is kind of in your circle, and I think has made a certain decision about something that they're going to say or do. Because um, this deck is kind of fun. It's the Woodland Tarot, and it has like all of the traditional tarot associations, but with woodland themes. So like Justice here is the wood word, and they have different little keywords that are generally associated with like the similar tarot meanings, but sometimes highlighting a specific facet of a card. And for the 2 of wands that we have here, the keyword is decision. Keyword is decision, and that comes out right under the high priestess. So I think that like there's something that like has been intuitively felt, but not necessarily like fully articulated. And I think it has to do with this feeling that this person is feeling, like um, this warmth that comes after a period of like deep grief and like sadness. Um, and there's this feeling of, wanting, I think, to be honest about that, wanting to do something with that is, I think, like, almost I'm getting like logically follows. So I think that may be some level of moving forward or expressing that. But that's really scary to this person. It's really scary. So I'd like some more information about like what's going on with this energy. Like, and their thinking, feeling, what's scary to them in this instance. Okay, we got the Queen of Cups sideways there, and Ten of Wands. Um, I think like that's already okay. Six of Wands, Knight of Swords. I think that there's like multiple things that this person's a little anxious about. It might just be an overthinker. Um, but with like that Queen of Cups like kind of sideways with the Ten of Wands, and the keyword there's responsibility. I think that like they have like a tendency to take a little bit like too much responsibility for other people's emotions, and like take that on. And I think that there may be a sense of like, I think like not wanting to make assumptions about like your emotions, or not wanting to make assumptions about like how you might react in this instance. And I think like maybe not necessarily like getting a clear read on that, like feeling like they have a sense of their energy, but like the person on this card, they're kind of carrying it alone, and they're like trying to like reach the fire, if you can see at the top of the cliff there. But there's like this sense of, already struggling, I think, to like manage their own emotions in this situation. And then, being afraid, like, oh, like, what if you react poorly? The tower on the bottom, yeah, like that would be my 13th reason. That would be my last straw. I shouldn't laugh at that. It's not funny. I've just been there. I've been there, and so there's this feeling of like, I don't want to make you responsible for my, emotional instability if you were to react really poorly. And just like a lot of like worries about wanting to be responsible for their own emotions, and like simultaneously not letting other people be responsible for their emotions. So I think this person also may be like working through like a little bit of, codependency stuff and the like. And I think with this like Knight of Swords and like Six of Wands here, there's also this sense of like, but what if they said yes? But what if it went well? And kind of this sense of, I think, like knowing that there may be certain changes that they would have to make like in their life to like accommodate the reality of those emotions. I don't know why I cannot sit still right now. I am like so fidgety. So whoever this is might be like a fidgeter. It might be someone who's a little like busy with their hands a lot. Maybe when they're nervous as well. Uh, it's very interesting. It's a very like physically and emotionally attuned kind of energy. I think that like they take things very seriously. Like very, very much like, I can't express this unless I intend to fully follow through on it. But then, if I fully follow through on it, then I'm gonna have to, do XYZ or change my job or, do this or, it's like they're even overthinking or thinking like 7 steps ahead, in instances where it would be a good thing. Um, which is, it's again, it's very, very like methodical kind of energy. And I think it's because like this person like does take things very seriously. Um, and they take seriously like their emotions, and your emotions. And I think that there is a desire to be like emotionally aware and emotionally attuned and like emotionally accountable, um, while also like not overwhelming themselves. Like they kind of want to play it off cool, I think. Like, and I think that there's this sense of like if they were to get too emotional, like they almost see that as like a failure, like they would be putting a burden on you. This is interesting reading. This is not where I thought this was going, but tell me some more. Tell me some more. Talk to me about this energy. What's going on? Eight of Cups, Birth. Seven of Pentacles, Healing. I feel like there's more. Three of Cups, Joy. So I think that like this person has sort of been on a journey. I think like really working on a lot of this emotional balancing stuff within themselves. And I think like they may be a little bit in like, like therapy mode where they're, kind of over analyzing things a little bit. And I think that like overall it is a shift for them. Like they may have been someone that was more just like emotionally avoidant or overly driven by emotions in the past, which, I mean, to be fair, if you're someone who's very emotionally avoidant, in a sense, you are wholly driven by your emotions, just the avoidance of them. Um, but I think that there is this sense of like realizing how much I think that they want and they enjoy like connection and working on like healing the part of them that needs to be present in order to like show up authentically. So how do you play into this? Ace of Swords, Six of Pentacles. mm, I think that something that like you said that you did, um really like reframe their perspective. I think like for them it was a turning point. I don't know that you fully know that, because I don't think that I would need to be telling you that if you really like fully knew that. But I think that there was almost a sense of them being in a situation where they weren't really being treated the best. And I think, maybe not even like fully realizing that until, you said or did something that inadvertently caused them to kind of recognize where they were being exploited or underappreciated. And there's this sense of them, I think, like feeling a little bit of shame for not like realizing that on their own, and for, I guess, allowing that to happen. It's not anyone's fault when things like that happen to them, like, for the record. If someone takes advantage of you, it's because they're a shitty person, not because you did anything wrong. But I think that there is this sense of like very much, feeling like, oh, I did all of this work to, heal myself, and I didn't even realize that, I was still allowing people to mistreat me until someone else said something. And, feeling like what if it's not enough? What if the healing's not enough? What if the, whatever. Um, but what if it is? To play the devil's advocate, what if it is? Um, so what are they gonna do with these realizations? With you being someone who has catalyzed some realizations as they're on their healing journey, and you know, whether it's friendship, romantic, whatever, I think that there is a lot of love for you. I think that you bring more warmth to this person's life than you fully realize, clearly more than they can fully articulate. Um, so what now? What now? What are you gonna do with that? Hermit, Queen of Swords, Devil. I think that they're gonna go in circles in their head for a little bit. Um, I think that they are not necessarily in a bad way. I think that there's this sense of almost like them realizing how big this is to them, and like because of, whatever therapy or whatever they went through before, having the instinct to say, okay, like now it's time for me to do some self-reflection, and kind of like get over this. I need to get over this. Like I need to work through the devil that is my brain, um, telling me that I have to be alone and I can never reach out to anyone or, accept help. Um, King of Wands. I think they're going to be successful though. I think that I'm hearing like well versed at like dismantling unhealthy like mental patterns, because like I was saying before, I think that this is someone who has like worked through a lot of their shit, and I think also like prides themselves on that, and prides themselves on like that emotional sense of resilience. What happens after that? The Magician, King of Swords. It's almost like, once they're able to kind of go back in their head and like dismantle that devil, that overthinking, that, part of them that says that, the only safe boundary is I allow no one into my life. I think like that is going to allow them to take action in terms of like speaking their truth. With the King of Swords there and the Magician, I think that like there is like very much something that they have their heart set on, um, that I think I'm hearing like want to be clear about their intentions, want to be clear about their desires, want to be clear about their feelings. Um, and I think that like they are going to be very clear about like the way that they want to move forward and how they see you in that. What can you expect from this? So this feels like something that's going to be like very transformative for you as well, because we got the Seven of Cups, the Moon, and then Death and the Four of Wands, which to me says that like you may have been in this position of just sort of like feeling a little aimless, in certain areas of life, maybe relationships specifically, and possibly like mourning the things that didn't work out and like the paths that you went down that didn't really turn out to be viable. And I think that like whatever this very clear communication, whenever this like comes through, I think you'll know because it will be very truthful, very aligned with actions, very much a this is where I'm at, this is where I want to take it. What are your thoughts kind of conversation, as opposed to more of a let's see what happens kind of like this is more like, the King of Swords, like he said what he said, and he meant what he said, and there's no like misinterpreting that. There's no room for nuance. And I think that like you may have been in situations before where, you were with like the Moon and the Seven of Cups, like kind of let in a little. And I think that like this will be like a little bit of like a breath of fresh air as far as I think being something that like you've really wanted and something that like means a lot to you with that like death and the Four of Wands. I think that there's something like very transformative about this energy for both of you. I think that like it's asking both parties to step into the role of like confident and fully embodied versions of themselves. And like asking them to be like really willing to like both give and accept communication, like in the way that they would want, in the way that is like healthy and worth celebrating. I'm hearing any long term outcome for this connection. Eight of Pentacles, Judgment, Queen of Pentacles, Knight of Wands. So I like that like in this deck, Judgment is represented by the Great Bear. And if you look at the Queen of Pentacles, she's also a bear. And so I think that like this is like about awakening a part of you that's like very tied into I think like your I'm getting like your body, but like your body in terms of, your body is where you feel your feelings. Your body is where you conceptualize desire. Your body is, kind of this feedback machine for where you are, what you need, what's going on. And I think that like there's this sense of like almost like ramping up the energy, like having more energy and specifically being able to channel and apply that in a way that's like very very safe, but also like very passionate, with the Knight of Wands there. It's like you're moving based off of passion. But at the same time, it's something that's like very nurturing to you. And I think helping you to realize like the skills that you do have as far as connecting with your own energy, nurturing your own energy, and also doing that with other people. Um, that I think were maybe like not really fully appreciated before. And you've kind of been in this phase of maybe like feeling a little let on or feeling a little uncertain. And I think like having a clear direction to move forward is going to show you like how much you have grown and like open your eyes to I think like the potency and the healing capacity that like your energy just naturally inherently holds, and also allow you to like continue developing that, with the Eight of Pentacles and like developing this awareness of yourself and I think appreciation for yourself, um, through this connection should you choose to pursue it. This feels like a very again like it's very like warm, like cozy bear in the den energy, but also like very fun and playful with the fox Knight of Wands there. A little bit of duality, and I don't know. I think that's fun. I'm here for it. So whether you're the person who's on the receiving end of communication or you're the person who's sitting here thinking, I can't do it. You can do it. You can do it. You've done it before within yourself. This is basically the same thing, just with another person. So, whether, again, whether it's giving or receiving, you can do it. You're gonna do great, and there's a lot of lovely long-term potential here. So, best of luck with that.